Hello. Welcome to tonight's bedtime story by Lucid Tales. I hope your day has been tranquil and warm. But whether it has been peacetime or raging battle for you, it's time to relax now. Find somewhere comfortable, maybe your bed or a favorite armchair, and make sure you're ready for sleep. Take your shoes off if you can, and feel the freedom in your toes, the little loosening that means it's time for bed. Tonight's story is an ancient Greek myth of Theseus and Asterion the Minotaur. Back in the cloudy mists of time, the Greek gods ruled over vast swathes of the world. They were petty, capricious, cruel, and sometimes even kind. One above all, the lord of the gods upon Olympus, was Zeus. As well we know, many Greek myths begin with Zeus and his indiscriminate appetite for lovers, much to Hera's anger. One of the sons of Zeus's many couplings was Minos. In time, Minos came to rule over Crete and was given an immortal daughter of Helios to wed, the nymph Pasiphae. But in his overweening arrogance, Minos made a dreadful mistake. He called upon Poseidon to gift him a beautiful pure white bull, so that he might sacrifice it to him and please the sea god with its sweet flesh. A white bull, more beautiful than any seen before, did indeed appear on the shore of Crete, and Minos' subjects were awed at his closeness to the gods. But it was then that Minos made his terrible error. Instead of sacrificing the white bull to Poseidon, he greedily hid it away among his herds, and killed another bull in Poseidon's name. Now Poseidon was mighty wroth, and in punishment for this deception he cast down a curse on Pasiphae, so that she developed an unnatural and fierce passion for the white bull. Whether through persuasion or trickery, Pasiphae had the great craftsman Daedalus build for her a wooden cow, with a hollow inside where she could conceal herself. She had him wheel it to where the great white bull was kept, and ordered him to leave. When he was gone, the white bull mounted the wooden cow, and so Pasiphae consummated her strange lust. In time, it became apparent that Pasiphae was once again with child. She had already borne several sons and daughters to Minos, and like all nymphs, she bore her children easily. Ariadne, for whom Daedalus built the dancing circle, Phaedra, and all of their siblings had entered the world with barely a ripple. But this one was different. In time, Pasiphae was forced to send for her sister Circe, the witch of Aea, and Daedalus with his steady artist's hands to ease her birthing. When the child, the creature, was extracted from her womb, it was one of the hideous monsters that the gods loved so much. A child, obscenely strong, with the head of a bull, great liquid eyes and gnashing, yearning teeth. Its hunger knew no bounds. But Pasiphae would not let it be killed. She named it Asterion, which means starry one. But over time it came to be known by the name Minos gave it to thwart the shame of being cuckolded by a bull and claim the creature as his own. The Minotaur. Pasiphae ordered Daedalus to build for her a cage that could hold such a creature. A fantastic maze, with many twists and turns and passageways that came to a sudden dead end, built underneath the palace of Knossos. Where once storerooms had flowed with oil and grain, now the great creature roamed, snorting and gnashing its teeth, searching for another taste of human blood. Now in those days, Crete under Minos had scoured the seas and shores all around, burning pirates and looting cities alike. In time, these great cities came to make treaties with Crete and agreed to pay tribute. From Athens, the city where Minos' son Androgeus was killed, once every 9th year, in the season when the Minotaur's hunger reached its peak, were brought 7 maidens and 7 youths to be imprisoned one by one in the Labyrinth to sate the Minotaur's terrible hunger. So this continued for 3 cycles, almost 30 years, and the name of the Minotaur was a source of great terror and weeping in Athens. But as the 3rd tribute was due to be chosen by lot, Theseus, the returned son of Aegeus, the king of Athens, volunteered to take his place as a youth on the black-sailed ship to Knossos. Aegeus was stricken with grief, but he could not deny his son. In hope that he might yet return, Aegeus gave to Theseus a white sail, and said that should he return safely, he was to raise the white sail and fold away the black, so that Aegeus might know that he was well before the ship landed. Before the ship weighed anchor, of course, Theseus went to the oracle at Delphi and asked how there might be a way that he could defeat the dreadful Minotaur. The oracle told him to make sacrifice to Aphrodite as his guide and companion in this journey. And so he did, and he gained the favour of the goddess. In Knossos, the tributes were greeted by Minos himself and escorted to cell-like rooms where they were to be held before being fed into the labyrinth. Theseus demanded that he be the first to face the Minotaur, and Minos laughed cruelly. If the son of Aegeus wishes to die, who am I to refuse him? For even if he could kill the Minotaur, there was no chance of Theseus escaping the labyrinth. But dancing Ariadne, Persephone's daughter, caught a glimpse of Theseus before he was taken to his cell, and whether it was Aphrodite's influence or his bravery and sweet face, she fell in love with him, and visited his cell to offer him aid, if he would promise to marry her and take her away from Knossos. Long into the night she spoke with him, and told him about all of the traps and twisty ways of the labyrinth, for she herself had ventured into those dark chambers when the creature's hunger was sated and it was safe to encounter. After all, she said, it was her brother, even if monstrous. Ariadne gave Theseus 2 gifts, a bronze sword and a ball of string. When you enter the labyrinth, you must attach the string to the great gate that bars it shut, and unravel it as you walk, so that no matter where you go in the labyrinth, you may find your way safely out again. When you find my brother, you must sacrifice him to Poseidon, for he is truly Poseidon's monster. But on defeating the Minotaur, she could give no advice, beyond a blessing and a prayer. The next morning, Theseus was roughly yanked from his cell and taken with great ceremony to the gate of the labyrinth. Beyond that gate, the light of the torches faded into darkness, and Theseus felt his heart beat faster with fear, though he did not quail. The gates were drawn open, and he ran in before he could be pushed, with that ball of string in his hand and bronze sword at his belt. He did as Ariadne had instructed, and paid out the string behind him wherever he went, sometimes retracing his steps and reeling it back again, but always leaving a clear, thin path for himself. Theseus was in the labyrinth for a very long time, down in the dark, close air. It seemed he saw the Minotaur around every corner, heard its snorting breath and the heavy tread of its footsteps hunting for him, for his blood. But Theseus was no shrinking victim awaiting sacrifice. He was hunting the Minotaur as surely as it was hunting him. That had to count for something. Soon, however, out there in that strange maze, Theseus did hear something. Heavy thuds, rhythmic and getting closer. He lurked behind a wall, silent in that shadowy place. Soon he could hear the thick, heaving breath, and the guttural grunts and grinding of teeth. The footsteps grew faster, heavier. In the dark, Theseus could not see the flaring nostrils, scenting him, the great teeth bared for the bite, those great liquid eyes narrowed with hunger and hate. But as the Minotaur crashed toward him, he stepped out from behind the wall and raised his sword, blind as he was, and struck. The Minotaur in its mad stampede was not easily stopped, but with a prayer of offering to Poseidon, Theseus slew the beast and cut off its great head. When Theseus returned to the gate, his hands clutching that thin string lifeline, covered in blood and the death of the monster hanging from his name, Ariadne was the only one waiting. For who else could have thought that one man might succeed where so many had failed? She embraced him passionately and under cover of night led Theseus and his companions, the other tributes, back down through the city and to their black-sailed ship in the harbour. For who knew what Minos would do when it was discovered that his precious beast had been killed? Or Pasiphae, for her Asterion. Whether for mother's love or for love of power, she would not let such a crime slide, and as both nymph and witch she would be a powerful adversary. Theseus and the other tributes stove in the hulls of the Cretan ships to prevent pursuit, and slunk aboard their own, casting off and disappearing into the night. On the journey home they stopped at Dia, windbound and forced to wait, and Theseus had a troubling dream. In it Dionysus appeared to him and demanded that he leave Ariadne on the shore of that island, for she was destined to be his wife and not Theseus's after all. Sadly, but knowing that he could not refuse the god, Theseus took sail with his companions and abandoned Ariadne alone on that desolate shore. When she awoke, she lamented bitterly her kindness to him and her love of him, and called on the gods for revenge. But in time Dionysus appeared with pleasant company, and married her and made her immortal. Theseus, however, still found that revenge waiting for him. For in his saddened and muddied state he did not change the sail of the ship to white. And so when Aegeus, watching from his cliff-top, saw that black-sailed ship enter the harbour at Athens, he gave a great cry, and in grief cast himself down into the sea. And Theseus returned home to the death of his father. As king of Athens, he ruled for a long time, and even married another daughter of Minos and Pasiphae, the doomed Phaedra. But that is another story. Good night. Sleep well, and I will see you tomorrow for another bedtime story.